So if you asked me to do a Bendy game tier list, then it would probably go something like this. Bendy and Ink Machine would probably go in B, because after revisiting it, I actually had a pretty good time with it. Bendy Nightmare Run would probably also get a B tier, because it's just a fun mobile game to play when you're bored. Bendy and Dark Revival's A tier, because even though it's a great game, it still has its flaws. But then there's Boris and the Dark Survival. Where to put that? I'm sure at least one person out there would put this in F tier, but while on the topic of Boris and the Dark Survival, let's talk about it. So going back in time a little after Bendy and the Dark Revival was announced and it took 4 years to come out, another game was announced. During the production of that, a teaser was posted on the official Jojo Studios channel. So yeah, they were making a spin-off title about the fan-favorite character at the time, and it wasn't really received that well. So in this video, I'll go over the history of this game, all the updates, characters, and concluding with my opinion on the game. Let's get into it. So on February 10th, 2020, a game was released, and it was like nothing the Bendy community had seen before. It was a 3D first-person mobile game style project, sort of like Bendy Nightmare Run, but it actually has story. But it didn't affect the main lore of the game, because it was just affecting the story of Boris, because it was just giving us an explanation to what the f Boris was doing when we found at the end of chapter 2. So the basic rundown of the story is, so it follows the story of Boris the Wolf, who is living in the safe house that he brought us to at the beginning of chapter 3. And disaster is upon him, because he needs to go around the studio and gather supplies while being hunted by the Ink Demon. No, the old Ink Demon. Yeah, we're trying to survive this Ink Demon. So the game starts off with Boris taking an elevator down to a random level to collect supplies. These supplies include a plunger, a bone, a wrench, a spoon, a radio, and a book. So I guess Boris can read. So basically the gameplay is...
Five minutes later.
Yeah, so the way the mechanics work in this game is once you've spawned in, the Ink Demon will spawn somewhere at random and roams freely. How do you survive this idiot? Well, around the map are little miracle stations to hide in.
Huh?
But the part about this game is you can get into impossible situations where you're cornered and there's zero hiding spots and the Ink Demon is coming right at you. Not to mention the sprint mechanic, which runs out way too fast and doesn't go up unless you eat bacon soup. Alright, so that's basically Boris and the Dark Survival. I hope you enjoyed this video, and oh wait, the game got an update?
You think you can hide?
So this is the Wolf Trials update. This update added the projectionist to the game, which you could encounter at random, and when you did, you were tasked with picking up hearts. Yeah, I'm not sure what we'd need these for. The projectionist can also spawn in regular levels, but enough about him, because this update also added a secret to the game. So going through this door, you'll find a pinball machine, which you need to collect 6 fuses for, and just unlocks a Joey Drew recording, which doesn't really have an effect on the story at this point since Dark Revival is already released. But we do find a door with someone named Miller inside, so Boris goes on a rescue mission to free Miller. So after we find these tapes inside of dead clones of us, we're tasked with finding a key in another dead Boris. But after digging through our corpses like 5 times, we can finally open the door and save Miller. Oh my god, it was this bitch the whole time. And now we have to survive Alice Angel herself, who's actually doing the work instead of using someone else. But holy crap, she can run fast. But moving on from Alice, we're going to talk about another character, who is not an enemy surprisingly, because on very rare occasions, he'll spawn in as a lost one. This has about a 1 in 3,000 chance of happening, and nothing in the game changes besides you not being Boris. But moving on from that, there's a chance you may spawn in level 414. This is a number that a lot of Bendy fans should be familiar with, because it basically translates to April 14. And this is the date when Bendy and the Dark Revival teasers were posted, because whenever you spawn in this floor, you're also on day 414. This can't be a coincidence. But you choose to ignore it and decide to press on to find the supplies. But because the design of this floor is nothing like you've seen before. All the rooms are the same and are in a diagonal form, and the supplies are just sitting on the tables. It almost seems too easy to be a secret, but there's someone in here with you, and it's you. So quick character backstory, this is Borkis. He was first introduced through this tweet from a senior programmer at Joey Drew Studios. It was basically just a flat-headed Boris, who he named Borkis, and I guess they decided to put him in the game as an Easter egg. Borkis is literally just a Boris model but with glowing eyes, and a fun detail, Borkis also appears in the Dark Revival as an Easter egg for hackers, sort of like the Wandering Sin Bendy. The final feature of this update was these holes, which say look above them. If you choose to look through the holes, a number of things can spawn, from a Bendy cutout, a dead Boris corpse, a map, a reference to one of the first Bendy in the Dark Revival teasers, and of course, the Meatly himself. But this concludes the Wolf Charles DLC. Moving on. So the second DLC to release was the Unleashed DLC, and already starting up the game you'll see an Ink Boris plush. This will be important for later, but right now we're focusing on this box, which looks like there's someone or someones inside it, and we need 5 keys for it, and thankfully we don't have to dig through the bodies of our own corpses, we just have to search through the lockers, and after finding all the keys, you can unlock the box and free the people trapped inside.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
Oh. Okay, so just like Alice, when we unlock this box, we now face a new enemy, or enemies. Because when the Butcher Gang attack, they work as 3 different enemies. The Butcher Gang all attack at once and they all split up, so whenever you enter their level, if one catches you, all of them just teleport to you and jump scare you.
Huh?
For some reason. I honestly feel like it would be better if all of them just had one single jump scare. Despite the Butcher Gang being the weakest Bendy enemies, I think their level's probably the hardest due to even more impossible situations you can find yourself in. Not to mention the range of their vision is way too far, and the worst part is, you can't see their vision range. For the Ink Demon you can see this ink ring which represents his vision, Alice has her glowing ring, and the Projectionist has his light, and Borkis has his glowing eyes. But the Butcher Gang has absolutely nothing to represent their range of sight.
Wow.
But we've rambled for too long about this decomposed cartoon gang of inky monstrosities. Time to move on to the next thing this update added, the playable Lost one. And no, this isn't the one I brought up before with a 1 in 3,000 chance of occurring. This one is unlockable and can be accessed at any time, as long as you collect 5 pieces of paper with handprints on them. And once you collected all 5 pieces of paper, you can go back to this inky Boris plush I brought up before, and if you do it correctly, this should happen. And if you head back to the elevator, you'll spawn in as a lost one, but with Boris's helmet and we walk super slow. Oh, and Borkis got a new jump scare sequence because apparently he didn't have one in the previous version. Time to move on. So this next update was the Symphony of Shadows. This DLC didn't really add much to the game, but I'm gonna cover it anyway. So walking past the destroyed Butcher Gang containment box, you'll find yet another room, where you're tasked with doing another quest, to find 4 candles. So off we go candle hunting.
A few moments later.
You know, I don't remember these musical instruments being here, or this recording booth. I'm sure it's nothing.
5 minutes later.
Now we should have unlocked the secret. So back to the elevator we go. Now we should be able to unlock
Are you a believer?
So yeah, we can play as Sammy Lawrence now. So let's go over his powers. So Sammy has the power to travel through these holes in the walls to get from one part of the map to the other. And that uses our sprint because Sammy is physically incapable of running in this game. Sammy also has the power to play these musical instruments around the map, which is actually important to unlock a secret in this update. So if you go back to that room where you collected the candles and the mask, you'll see some drawings of musical instruments in a specific order. And if you follow the instructions to this drawing, you'll unlock this secret recording, which is basically Wilson scheming. Which isn't really important now since Bendy and the Dark Revival already released, but this was obviously made before the Dark Revival, so yeah. Also, the one thing I haven't touched on at all is this record player, which you can basically find tunes around the map and Boris can dance to them, but you're really able to only do one dance. It turned out a dance teacher came to the studio and hid away in the bathroom because Joey didn't give her a workspace. But we use this to our advantage because this update gives us the ability to look through toilets. And you can find dance blueprints in them which unlock these dances. Just look at him go. But overall, what do I think of the game? Well, when this game first released, I thought it was utter garbage. Because it was basically just Walking Simulator, Bendy Edition. There was no motivation to play the game, and there was really no reason to play the game. There weren't any achievements, so what was the point? But when the next few updates rolled around, they actually gave you incentives to play the game. But the gameplay still is sort of unfair, and I still do have my angry moments with the game. So overall, I might give it a D tier. Because it's still not perfect, but you can still have a fun time with it. So I hope you enjoyed this retrospective on the most hated Bendy game. Pingold out.